Hi guys, this is reflection vlog number 2, video number 3, and a lot has happened in this week. So this week I made 6 new versions of my card game and did roughly 7 playtests with different people. So it's been a busy week, a lot of cutting, a lot of designing, and a lot of just kind of stress testing the game a lot, and brainstorming how to make it better and improve it. It's been a great week. It's a lot of learning and I'm having a lot of fun doing it, but it's also quite depressing at the same time to have critique on your work, because it's very objective, right? The aim of the game is to make sure everyone's having fun, and if they're not having fun, then there's a problem. So it's quite objective in that way. So I don't take the critique personally, but it's still quite hard to kind of find solutions and kind of brainstorm new ideas on how to make it fresh, how to make it exciting, how to make the game kind of work on a basic level. So I got mentioned, I did 6 playtests this week. And not this week. I think it's been the past 2 weeks, the 6 playtests. And I've learned a lot. I learned a lot of different things. And before I play tests with someone, I try to update the cards, try to update the format, and just kind of see if it works a bit better. So with playtest number 1, I tried 3 formats with this friend. It was a 2-player game, and she really liked the theme. I think the video is up here if you want to see it. She comments during, there's commentary, there's no subtitles, I'm sorry. But there's commentary during the game, so I uploaded and fast forwarded through the actual playing. We tested 3 formats, and you can hear her feedback in the video, but the general gist of it was revealing cards was a lot of fun, and she really liked the party elements, and as a personal preference, she really enjoyed sabotaging people and being a bit more strategic, which I thought was very interesting. So I tried to update so for the next playtest, I tried to update the card effects with a lot more games, mini games, a lot more randomness. And I think I overdid it because with the next playtest, I was asked the question if I wanted it to be a party game or if I wanted it to be a strategic game. And I came into this project really hoping for a strategic game, but the way I was improving on it and changing it was leaning a lot towards party games. So I had a little bit of not crisis, but I had a little bit of reflecting to do in terms of what I wanted out of this game. Did I want mass appeal of a party game where one person probably buys it and a lot of people test it and so on? Or did I want it to be replayable, satisfying to play, and a hobby more than a time-wasting element, or social element? And I think even though I was leaning towards party game at the beginning, after a lot of consideration of who I am as a person, since my personal hobby is board games as well, and I personally prefer more serious gameplay, I decided to go for more strategic. So that was a really great question from my friend who was questioning me about my strategy for the game. And he also commented that the randomness So I play a lot of Muffin Time, and the way the game was heading was like a cheap version of Muffin Time. So that's definitely what I didn't want. And I wanted there to be more rewards for being strategic in this game. So that was one of the things I carried onto the next version of my cards. He also commented that some of the cards were a bit too OP. So I tried to nerf them a little bit. But I still didn't really know how to balance the game at this point in time. So, more on that later. Playtest number 4 was, I skipped 2 actually, because there wasn't too, I guess it was trying to work out the mechanics of the game, and it didn't work as much as I liked it to work. Playtest number 4 was one I was really looking forward to because it was a 5-person playtest. And it was really rare. It was really rare to get a 5-person playtest. So I quickly updated the cards. Then after being told it was too much of a party game, and I reworked the cards a little bit, making sure change the format a little bit. And one of the biggest critique of the playtest number 4, that arose during playtest number 4, was that the phase of my game, there was an element where people take turns picking from the shop. And when it's a 5-person group, that's too much waiting around, waiting for their turn. And then when it's their turn, there's not enough time to actually be deliberate with your choice. So it ends up being a really random picking. There was almost no strategy that was being used during this play test, and the library phase was also too long. So there's an element in my card game where you kind of have a small pile and you just flip cards over and over and over again until the pile gets depleted. So what happened was the card effects that I thought were fun, such as reshuffling and kind of restarting the game, reshuffling and adding cards into the pile, which I thought were fun elements, essentially caused there to be an overwhelming amount of cards in the deck, that we almost ran out of cards. And then it also, it got people really frustrated that it was happening, which is what you don't want. And so because of those two elements, the scaling was really bad, the lack of strategy was really bad, and people got really bored. They were talking during my game about other things, and a lot of them were picking cards because they knew the book title, and so it was really upsetting to see. But I didn't blame them. That's not what I'm trying to get at. It was just upsetting that the decisions I was making during my design phase were not coming through to the actual players. And so it was really helpful after that playtest, because my boyfriend was part of the playtest group, and he kind of sat me down and he gave me a lot of feedback regarding the actual cards. So a lot of the cards weren't balanced, and he essentially told me to balance the cards through an Excel spreadsheet and assigning a point value for every effect. I don't know if this is a common sense thing, but it didn't click with me initially. And then when it did click, it was just oh, why didn't I know how to do this? And even though I'm still not 100% sure I know how to do this now, at least I think the game is a little bit more balanced. There was also a little bit of a problem with actually formatting. So I make changes to the cards, and then I change the format. And then once I change the format of the game, the cards become irrelevant. And so it's a vicious cycle. And so it was a little bit frustrating as well to say, oh, this card doesn't work in this situation, let's remove it. Oh, this card doesn't work in this situation, let's remove it. And even though I had 108 cards, I feel like only half of them were actually usable. So during the playtest, so that was also really, really annoying. And then there was a little bit of comment on the efficiency of my designs. So my initial versions of the cards, they had full color. Like even though the card itself is separate into halves, both halves had color. And it was really intensive on my printer. But I realized after designing a little bit more that I could get away with only coloring half of the card. So that was a little bit of a design element. A lot of people were critiquing that so I guess I had to also balance aesthetics with actual effectiveness of design, because a lot of people were complaining that the card was too small, like the fonts of the cards were too small. Even though I'm choosing to not focus on design too much, I feel like in order to be effective, I need to make sure that it looks like a proper prototype before I playtest with people. And even if it's not aesthetic, which is really strange to me personally, like not aesthetic but proper prototype, I think people value effectiveness a lot more over aesthetics, especially during prototype phase. So that's something I've learned to adjust. I also realized that because I'm cutting so many cards and then discarding them, I'm not discarding them, I'm still keeping the versions, but I discard the prototype in the sense of I don't use those previous prototypes in my future playtests. Because of this, I don't need to be as finicky with my actual card cutting. So previously I was cutting one sheet at a time with a guillotine, and then making sure I'm like straight with my card cutting, and then making sure that it's exactly on the border, it's exactly the right size to fit into the card sleeves and everything. I still stand by that card sleeves are very important, so I bought another 1,000 card sleeves. But I can cut them a lot smaller than the card sleeve size, and I could be a little bit wonky with my card sleeves, with my cards, and it'll be fine because surprisingly, no one cares about how I cut the cards. They only care about the design of the cards themselves. So that's also something I've learned to spend more time towards. Yeah. And then finally, I had 2 more playtests. So one playtest was with a mate and with 2 mates, and they were really concerned with the pacing of the game. So I switched up the formatting and I changed the cards once again. And with this new format, the pacing became really difficult because it was a critique of an earlier critique that I had, but I didn't pay too much attention to it because I thought smaller scale groups would still work. But I think the shop element where people are taking turns picking cards is really frustrating for a lot of people and will deter them from the game completely. So that's something I really need to fix. Good. And the rules really need to be revised. The game was also on the shorter side, so library effect wasn't as long this time. And essentially a lot of the gameplay was cut down, and that wasn't as fun because it becomes a really passive experience if there's not much actual playing the game. If all the strategy happened in the beginning, and then you're just waiting for the result of the beginning, but the beginning was really boring, the whole game needs to be thrown out, in my opinion, which I don't want to do. I'm recording this with the latest playtest in mind, which is that the game is pretty good right now. But initially, when I heard that feedback, it was really, really frustrating. They didn't say that it needs to be thrown out the game. They just commented that like they need to play the game a little bit more to understand it, which is a good thing. Like, they're great friends, and that's great feedback to have. But at the same time, I'm a little bit like, are they saying this because they're my mates, or is this because, like, yeah, I'm not too sure. But it was really tough to stomach the fact that my pacing needed to change, and I needed to change a really core element, in my opinion, of the game. But with the latest playtest, I gave myself a little bit more time this time, which was a day, to be honest. I gave myself a few hours. I actually I took a couple hours to like not think about the game, and that gave me a lot of time to process in the background. And because I processed in the background, I came up with a few ideas I could use. And so with my latest playtest, I gave my brother a demo, and we kind of playtested it, but it was very instructional. But long story short, the mechanics finally work a little bit more. There was some elements that was a little bit extra to the game, which wasn't being utilized. So there was some elements that was underutilized, which is not great. And there were some elements where you could shortcut it by like painting. So I created mini paper tokens to vote for cards. But it's kind of unnecessary in a 2-player game. And then it was also too short of a game with the new format. But I think it's at a good place right now, where the cards just need a lot of tweaking. And I think at this stage, I could finally kind of return the project to me a little bit more. Because what I've realized is when people give you feedback, it's great to have a lot of feedback, and it's great to listen to them. But you need to keep in mind personal preferences. And you need to personally steer the project your way a little bit before, like, listening to people's ideas on how to make the game more fun doesn't make the game work. So that's definitely a lesson about the party game elements. Like with my latest playtest, which was like 1 hour ago, I'm really satisfied that it does work a little bit more, and I could essentially now that I've gotten people's feedback, personally, I can now take my project under my control and play test it myself as different people multiple times, and also kind of tweak the cards effects and balance the game a little bit more. So that's kind of my strategy for the next few weeks, I presume. Before correction, I have a group meeting with a bunch of people, bunch of friends next Sunday. So currently Sunday, next Sunday. And I'm going to probably play test it there. So I have a week to stress test the game. So that's my update. It's a bit longer than I thought it would be. But it was a good week of playtesting. I think playtesting with your friends is really good for kind of testing elements of the game. So I guess before the playtest, I had a semblance of a game and I had an idea of what the game would look like, but I had no practical experience of what will make a game fun. So it was a lot of learning there, and I hope that by the next time my reflection journal, I have a bigger idea of what to do. One last thing, there was also I don't know if I should throw this question out there, but the game that I'm designing is based around books and the library. And part of that theme, because of that theme, my cards are named after real books and real authors.
Okay.
And I don't know if that would cause legal issues down the line. So because of that, I feel like I potentially have to change the theme of the game, which is a core element, so I don't want to. And then there's also potentially I could use older books or more books that were published a lot earlier. That's something I need to consider. But I'm throwing this question out there. Do you think I should name my cards after real books? That's my question to you. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe and comment down below. I really appreciate it. It's great. It's actually really amazing that people are watching this, because I didn't expect anyone to. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
Thank you.